Okay, hello, welcome to this little tutorial. I'm going to show you how to paint this leg. This is a Primaris Space Marine leg. And I'm going to show you how to paint it how I paint it, like an Ultramarine. And yeah, it's a simple tutorial. And my first proper one. So, enjoy. You're going to need Macragge Blue, which is a Citadel colour paint. You're going to need a shade Drakenhof Nightshade. You're also going to need two thin coats Elysian Blue, but you can use Citadel Calgar Blue. I'm using Fenrisian Grey or Fenrisian Grey from Citadel, Blue Horror from Citadel, and I'm using Ulthuan Grey from Citadel as well. Okay, so you're just going to get the Macragge Blue, thin it down, slap it all over the model. Just slap it on. It's a thin base coat. Slap it all over. Not a care in the world. Just slap it on. And that's all you basically need to do. And then you need to wait for it to dry. But I'm going to be using a hair dryer in between each step. There it is dry. Fancy, isn't it? Ooh, look at that. Okay, and then you just do another layer of Macragge Blue. That's all you need to do. Just get slapping it on. Now, I think in total I do about 4 coats of Macragge Blue, really thin. And it gets you a nice, smooth, simple base coat. People often say, oh, Stibio, how'd you get this, blue, so blue? And it's just thin layers over and over again. So yeah, there it is, dried. There's the third layer. So it needs one more layer. So I get cracking again. And there you go, look at that. Another final thin coat of Macragge Blue. Just slapping it all over. Obviously, if you're doing, other different colours, don't get it on those colours. But I do the armour colour, the predominant colour first. So I just slap it all over. And there you go. There it is dried. And now we can start doing the other steps. Oh no, I'm still going. Forgive me. I'm doing one more layer. I lost count of how many layers I did. Okay, let's get cracking. We've done that final coat. It's a nice, solid base layer of Macragge Blue. You can't see any of the undercoat through it. And yeah, the next step is to start doing recess shading. So these things are super helpful. It's called a paint puck, the bright orange thing, and it stops you spilling your paints. So whack your shade paints from one of them, and then obviously you can still knock it over if you try. But yeah, it stops you just gently knocking it over. That has saved my bacon many a time. And I got it after I spilled a pot of Nuln oil everywhere. But yeah, just use a brush that's still got an okay tip, but it's not like your best brush. And then yeah, get cracking. So you can slap it all over it and then clean it up, which is what I used to do. But now I go through the recesses. So just follow the recesses and just paint the paint in them. It's as simple as that. Sometimes I'll do more than one layer. Once it's dried, I'll go back in and make it a bit darker. And just don't be too careful. This is a nice, quick and easy step. So I deliberately am doing it a bit quickly and a bit messy for this demonstration, so I can show you how to clean it up. But basically, you just follow all the recesses and you just paint the recess paint in there. It's as simple as that. There we go. It's all done. Okay. So that's it wet. It's not dried yet. But yeah, I've been a bit sloppy. There's some parts that need cleaning up. But overall, it's mostly in the recesses. So you just need to allow that to dry. I'm going to be using a hairdryer to speed it up. So I'm using it's an old Artis Opus size 0. Oh, there you go. And it's still got a good-ish tip, but it's great for this step, which is just tidying up with Macragge Blue and going in and sort of tidying up the bits that you've got shade over. Now, I do this step multiple times throughout the painting process. I've not shown it every time, but for the following steps, if you mess up a layer or mess up a part, just go back in carefully with the base coat and tidy it up. Okay, there you go. It's done. Tidied up. Let's move on to the next step, shall we? So we're going to be doing the chunky edge highlight, and I'm using two thin coats Elysian blue. I'm just doing a couple of dabs here, one for the next step and one for this step. So this step, I'm using a 50-50 mix of Elysian blue and Calgar blue, and that gives a nice intermediate between the base coat of Macragge and the first proper edge highlight of Elysian blue. So that's why we do this chunky highlight. It's a little intermediate mix, and it makes it not as intense a transition between the two. Now, you can do this between each single paint that you're using. It adds complexity, but it does add smoothness. Now, over the years, I found this is the best mix for me, doing a chunky with a mix, and then the next one's going up, up, up. But I think if I was doing something like Golden Demon, I'd maybe, push it up a bit, do intermediates. But yeah, so let's just get the brush. Now, test it on your thumb as well. Make sure it's the right consistency. This probably needs a little bit. There's too much loaded on the brush. Take it off, try it again. And also make sure you're not loading it up to the ferrule. So you got the brush tip, don't load it up to the ferrule. About halfway is as good as you can get. If you overload it, just paint it off, wash it off, get it on the paper, load it up again. So chunky highlight, it's a line around the edge of each panel. That's what a highlight is. Not in the art world, but in this scenario, an edge highlight, it's the highlight around the edge of a panel. Now, chunky one, it's not as thin as you can go, but it's like a nice, thick-ish line. Not too thick, not too thin. Look at references, practice. You'll get to know what the ideal ratio is. Now, I find the thinnest line I can go is about 1 millimeter, so I do my chunky highlight as about 2 millimeters. And you just follow it round. You do this around every panel. Now, the Citadel heavy metal way of doing this is every single edge gets the edge highlight. I personally don't do that. I sort of do volumetrically, which is where you see where the light shines and you paint accordingly to that. But also, I kind of do round all the edges. It's a learned way that I paint, and it's sort of hard to explain. But if you just look at photos of some paintings I've done, you can see what I'm on about. But it's sort of in between Citadel and not. So, what am I doing now? I think I've cut forwards without realising it. So now I'm doing the actual thin edge highlight. It's because I spent too long rambling. Yeah, so thin edge highlight using the Elysian blue or Calgar blue. So this is about 1 millimeter. I'm using a size 0 even, from 00, from Artis Opus. And you're inside that chunky highlight. So this one's about 1 millimeter inside the 2 millimeter chunky highlight. And again, for this one, for me, I do the chunky around every panel and this first highlight around every panel. Obviously, in this case, I'm just doing the front of the leg because it's a tutorial. But yeah, and bits you've missed. Like, for example, first time around, I missed this little bit on the foot. So now I'm just putting it in and just going around bits like this. So in this stage, I paint every single angle around these. But in the future, in further steps, I sort of do the top edge. So I imagine the sun is the light source, so it's shining top down, and anything that is on the top gets the light, on the bottom doesn't generally, unless it's like a curved surface. So on the knee pad and the spheres, I'll do a big sort of highlight area around the top, and then on the bottom, I'll do a smaller one. It's sort of like volumetric, but also sort of like edge highlighting from Citadel, heavy metal style. So I've done that stage. Now moving on to the next highlight stage, which is using Fenrisian grey. So just get it on your paint palette and dilute it with a bit of water. And this is something that you got to just learn yourself. You got to learn the consistency yourself. Everyone's brushes, environment, palette, everything is different. Now this, I'm not going all the way to the edge, as I just said. I'm just painting it. Sort of, the corner is my shine point for everything. So this one, I'm doing quite a big one around all the corners, all the top of edges. And so generally, for example, on this foot, I'm doing it in the corner and I'm doing it in the middle. And also I'm always pulling the paint and the brush towards me. So as you can see in the video, I'm moving this model around all mad ways. So then pulling the paint towards me. Because where you start the brush stroke and where you end the brush stroke is important. Now I'm doing this without even thinking about it. And it becomes second-hand memory, or muscle memory I mean. But the pigment is deposited the most where you end the brush stroke. So if you're going in one direction, it will look a bit weird. It won't blend. So the way I do it, here you go. I've gone rambling again. I've finished that stage. Now moving on to the next one. But yeah, where you end it is important. So I go from one end into the corner, another end into the corner, and that makes a nice blend between the colours. Now the next stage is using Blue Horror, and this is inside what I've just painted. So I've just painted the Fenrisian grey edge highlight. Now I'm using the Blue Horror, and I'm painting inside that. So it's just going up doing highlights inside the previous highlight. And if you mess it up, just use the previous one to tidy it up, and so on and so forth. So now I'm painting inside that edge highlight I've just done, into the corner, in the middles, and so on and so forth. And you can start to see the effect is actually showing now. This is my first time using this setup, so I'm sorry that it goes off the screen. I promise I will get better in the future. I might even have to record a third Ultramarines painting tutorial. But how do you get better? Like with painting, everything else with practice. And yeah, this is my first proper tutorial. Editing it on a PC, doing a voiceover and all that stuff. So just bear with me. So yeah, you literally just painting it inside the other ones. It's simple, but you're gonna need to practice it. I'd call myself an intermediate painter. I'm not a beginner. I'm not an expert. Firmly in the middle. I don't think I've got the hand-eye coordination to get much better, but I do push myself with stuff, and technical colour theory, all that stuff you can always improve on. But actual fine line detail, I think I'm at my limit with my fine motor control in my hands. But yeah, I'm just taking this paint, I'm slapping it on, I'm doing it in the corners. And I didn't actually mention this, but there you go, there's me on that very penultimate highlight step finished. But yeah, if you paint using the side of the brush on hard edges like the top of this knee pad thing, that's another thing you need to practice. But yeah, you can get a nice edge highlight that way. So things like armor panels on tanks, dreadnoughts and stuff, it's a lot easier to paint these straight line that way. Whereas on stuff like this, oh yeah, Ulthuan grey, final highlight, boom. Stuff like this, you have to sort of use brush control and draw the lines rather than using the center brush. But yeah, this is called the pin or the point highlight, and you're literally just doing like a little dot in the corners. I used to go up to white, but now I just do Ulthuan grey. So I've changed my recipe over the years slightly. You'll be able to see the difference if you look at my previous tutorial. But this is literally just the tops. So in this, on the knee pad, I didn't do it on the bottom one, just on the top. And all the corners and stuff like that. I will put this little pin dot highlight in, and I find that for me personally, going from the darkest of the Drakenhof up to this Ulthuan grey, it's gorgeous contrast. I love it. It's how I paint. It's funny because these are the colours, apart from the Elysian blue. This is the colours that they use on the box art. However, the way I paint it, the way I've developed myself, it looks different. I could not tell you how or why, but it just does, and I think it's just me being special. But that's it. That's it with all the point highlights on. It's not, it's classic me. It's not the best I can do. It's not the worst I can do. I smashed this out in about half an hour to record this tutorial video. What am I doing now? Oh, I'm cleaning up again. I did say I'd come back and do multiple cleaning steps. So yeah, literally don't be afraid. And the marvellous thing about paints being transparent is I'm cleaning up this Macragge blue, and you can do multiple layers and it will make it opaque back to the base layer, but because I'm just tidying up with this, it sort of glazes and it sort of blends it in, and it makes the mistakes sort of blend in and it looks okay. And yeah, I'm quite chuffed with it. I think it's a nice showcase of what I can paint. But wait, there's more! This isn't... When I'm finished with a paint model, I use Ultramarines Varnish. This one's from AK Interactive. You can use it in an airbrush. I use an airbrush. However, for this, I'm using it with a brush. And it unifies the finish along the model. So, like, the recessed shades are all glossy. The Macragge blues, nice and matte. Slap this on. Literally slap it on. Everything becomes matte. If you're not like a fan of this super matte style, you can mix a bit of gloss in, make it satin, blah blah blah. But yeah, there it is. Hair dried and dry. I didn't just go boo boo boo, it's done. That's after it's been hair dried. But yeah, that is how I paint my models. All those steps, matte varnish, boom. That is literally it. Yeah, but thanks for watching, guys. Let me know if you want to see any more tutorials. Like, subscribe, and all that jazz. I've got a Patreon as well. I'm going to be doing a lot more with the Patreon soon. But for now, it's literally just to support me. That's it. But let me know if you want to see any more tutorials, what you want them to be on, that sort of stuff. And let me know what you think about this tutorial. There's things I can improve on, things you liked. I'm all ears. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.